guys, and welcome to a new tutorial, which is how to use or work through with the new Blender hair dynamics inside Blender 2.83 alpha. So this time we are going to do something specific, and this is the first time I'm doing a tutorial like this. So I thought it would be cool to create a tutorial on how to use the hair dynamics and get interesting results with it. So I'll walk you guys through, and I will give you some tips and tricks to get a better simulations or better animations out from the hair dynamics. So without wasting my time, let's just move on. Alright, so firstly you have to make sure you are using Blender version 2.83 alpha or above. Firstly, let's create a simple scene. So I'm going to add a plane, scale it a little up. So let's save time by just enabling this, and then we have all the controls here. So I'm going to scale it something like this. Alright, so you can check what I'm doing here. So for the X, Y and Z, so something like this, very simple. Then let's add some particles. Alright, particles properties. Then we have the particles added, so let's switch to hair. Alright, good. So default, this is what we are having, and let's maintain this, or maybe let's reduce this to 500 so that we can make things faster. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'll try and explain everything as we move on. So the first thing we are doing is setting up a simple hair particle for the dynamics. Alright, so I'm going to rotate this plane on the x-axis, which will be 90 degrees. No, sorry, 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Alright, so let's add a very simple cube, and then I'm going to scale this one here. Alright, so let's scale it down a little, something like this. So again, you can just check what's happening here. Alright, alright, this will do. Okay, so I'm going to add a bevel modifier, and this will help us get rid of the sharp edges. So this is without the bevel, and here is with the bevel. Alright, so I'm going to increase this to something like 3. Alright, cool. So we are done setting up the scenes, and let's continue with the particles. Alright, so firstly we are going to go over the settings or the necessary options you have to do before we start working on the dynamics. So we have the number. I'm going for 500 because I want it to bake very fast, and hair length 4 is okay. So one important thing is the segment. So segment is actually like a subdivision for the strands or each particle. So if you want to see the segment of this these hair, you can either go to the particle edit and then choose this option. So you can see we have how many? 1 2 3 4 5. So this 5 is actually the 5 over here. Alright, so it's like a subdivision for the hair, and you can do it manually by just selecting all the hair over here then under particles you go to subdivide. Then this will divide the segments of each strand. So this is going to divide it a little more for you to get extra segments or points in between each um, points here. So that this is the manual way of doing it, which is subdivide. But the other option we have is um, changing the value here. So let's click on this to get our options. Alright, so for this thing I don't want to go to this tab. I just want to do everything here. So I'm going to change the segment to something like 15. So the reason I'm setting this higher is it will give it more subdivisions for it to bend when it collides with something. So this value here is going to help it bend very well. Alright, so the next thing is this here you can just leave it at default and make sure you take advance. Alright, so we have a very simple scene. Next thing is to go to the render options, the render tab, then under steps you can choose something like, or maybe maintain the 3 for now. I will later on explain why you should go for higher values. So for viewport, this is not going to change anything. The effects will only be seen when you render this scene, but under the viewport display, all the effects, all the changes you make here will be seen in the viewport. So I'm going for 3 for now. So this option here, the strand steps here, actually supports this segments here. So after we do a little animation or do a little dynamics, you will understand how this one is supporting the segments here. I think we have almost everything set. Very simple. We are going for a very simple settings. Alright, so let's start with the dynamics. So go ahead and take this one for you to get the options. And you can see it's very simple. We have a very simple settings here. And that's to me it's a good thing, because we don't have to worry ourselves in a lot of settings to get something we want. So I'm very glad we have a very simple options here. So first is the quality steps. So this one is going to be the steps per frame. So higher values will calculate more steps in a frame. So if let's say this object will be moving faster, you need to get a very high steps for the dynamics to calculate those speed in the frame. So you need to use something like very high. So you have to test maybe 20 will be okay, but in some situations it won't work. So you have to test and see the values which will work for the simulation or for the dynamics. So for now we are not going to do any fast animation, just a very simple one. So 5 will be okay for us, but in case 5 is not okay, we will increase it. Alright, so for now we are maintaining the 5. We have the pin goal strength. So the pin goal strength is actually for the vertex for the weight paint of the strand. So it's actually 0, and I haven't used it before, but I think actually the points are, or the roots are sticking at the place they need to stick. So we can leave this here and let's see. So for now we are not going to touch this one, but let's move to the next options we have. So we have the vertex mass, we have the stiffness, we have the random, we have the dampen. Alright, so these are very simple. First, we are going to maintain the mass here. For the stiffness, for now let's maintain it, but later on I will explain what the stiffness really do, and random I'll explain that too. So I think we are cool with these settings. Let's check the others. So these settings are the interesting ones. So we have the air drag. So the effect of this is how slow the hair will fall. So when you go for higher value, it gets slower when the hair is falling. So going for a lower value like 0, it doesn't care about any it doesn't calculate the air around it when making the simulation. It just fall. So I normally go for 0, and I think it will work for this thing. So let's choose 0. But if you want something like a very slow falling hair, you can go for a higher value and it will work for you. Internal friction, we can leave that to 0, but I normally choose 0.05, and I normally set this to 0.05 because I think going for 0 is not a good idea. Alright, so for this option we are going to skip it. These two we are going to skip it. Density, strength. Alright, so you can see the important settings here is actually these two guys and the rest of these guys here. These ones I don't really touch them, but for these 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, these are actually the ones which are going to make a very nice changes to your hair simulations. So we have this we have everything that we have a simple settings, and let's try and bake it and see what we are going to get. So for my end frame, I'm going to use 120 for my end frame. Alright, so I'm using 120 here too. Alright, so but before we bake, let's make sure we have collision enabled on this cube. Alright, so good, we have our collision now. Very simple. If you mostly do hair simulations in Blender 2.9, you can see you have to do a lot of settings and some tricks to get things colliding, but now everything is very simple and straightforward. So I'm very happy for this interesting new hair dynamics we have in Blender 2.83. Alright, so for the cube and under the collision options, which is under the soft body or the cloth options, make sure you turn this off. Alright, I think turning this off gives a better result, so make sure you turn it off. Alright, so let's do a very quick simple animation on this one. So let's choose something like frame 10, and then I'm going to insert a keyframe, which will be the location. Then to frame 40, I'm going to move it here. Alright, then insert a keyframe. Okay, wait, location. So now we have this. So let's bake it, but before I bake, I'm going to alright, so before I bake, I'm going to reduce this number to 10 because I think 15 is a little high. Alright, so now we can bake. Now we can go ahead and bake. So bake. So I'm going to pause, and when I'm done I will continue the recording. All right, so I'm done baking the simulation, and let's play and see the results we have. Okay, so um you can see we are having a lot of errors, but this won't be a problem because there is a way to solve it, which was once a problem in Blender 2.9, but now it's not a problem. So I'm going to show you guys how to fix an error like this and get a very nice result. So you can see some of the strands are going through the collision object, and the reason this is happening is the quality steps here. So because the object is moving too fast, it fails to calculate some of the frames or some of the steps within a frame. So let's increase the amount of the steps here, and hopefully this is going to solve it. So let's do that. Alright, so let's delete the bake and then increase this to something like 15. So the price for this is it takes longer in baking, so choose your value wisely. Alright, I'm going to stick with 15 and then I'm going to bake. Alright, so we are done baking it, so let's play and see what we have here. Okay, so now you can see we are getting a very nice result here. Everything is colliding well. That's good. That's very good. Nothing is passing through. That's very good. Alright, so you can see everything now. Everything is colliding with just these simple settings here. I was hoping to get a certain error here, but it didn't end up showing. Normally you will find the hair going through the object, some small parts of the hair going through the colliding object, but it wasn't happening here. So I'm going to open some of the test file and show you how to fix that kind of error in case you face some in the future. Alright, so this is the scene I was talking about. So this is another test scene, and I want to show you a certain error you might face in the future, or a problem you might face in the future. So for the first scene we were using 3 for the steps, so let's go for 3 with this one. So let's check the settings I use for the dynamics. Alright, so quality steps I use 30, mass default stiffness I use 0.1, 0 default 0 0. I think all these values are default. Segment I use 50. Wow. Alright, so let's see what's happening inside. So you can see the hair is going through, although it's colliding outside here. Sometimes you won't even notice it when you are far away, but if you go inside the colliding object, you can see it's going through. If you are unable to go inside the object, just make sure you are using a different view for this. So I'm using I think I'm using perspective. So make sure here is it. So make sure you are on perspective view to be able to go close to the objects. Alright, so you can see the objects are going through. You might think you have to increase the strand to get it fixed, but no, it's not the strands. You might think um, it might be an error or a bug, but no, it's not. Alright, so the problem is actually the steps, the value for the steps. If you are facing a problem like this and you want to get it fixed, don't increase the value here. Just go ahead and increase the steps here for the viewport and render. So alright, so let's try and increase it and see whether it's going to fix it. We are now at 3, 4, and you can see now things are getting going outside. 5, almost gone. Then 6. Alright, so now you can see the hair is actually taking shape of the colliding object. So understand, practice and understand the effects of each setting so that you will know what to change when you are not getting the results you want. So again, the segments here helps break the strands, but the steps here under render and under viewport makes the strands curve a little more or give it a smooth curve. Alright, so go for the value you want. So remember that the values you always choose for the steps under the viewport should be the same value you choose for the steps under the render, so that you get the same results when you render. Alright, so I'm going for 6 here, and we are done. So this is another way of solving a problem like that. So you can see now we don't have any. So now you can see we don't have anything going through the colliding object. Alright. So another thing I'm going to show you guys is working with children, the problems you might face. So let's open another test scene, which is this guy. Alright, so it's very simple. Let me first walk you through the settings. Alright, very simple. So the number, I went for 68, but first let me disable the children so that you see what's happening. Alright, so the number, I went for 68, and the segments I went for 50. Simple. Hair dynamics 30, 0, default values. Very simple. Simulation start 1 and 250. What else? Render steps, I went for 5. Viewport, I went for 7, so I have to increase this to 7. I forgot about that. So make sure you always have the same values here. Very cool. What else? So yeah, that's the main settings for the dynamics. So when working with children, is a different thing altogether, but hopefully things are now simple with this new dynamic simulation for hair. Alright, so I'm going for interpolated. Alright, so this is what I'm having. This for the display amount I went for 40, render amount I went for 40, and the kink I went for braid, and these are the settings for it. So it's very simple. You can go ahead and play with this to get any results you want, and they have given us extra presets to get different results here, so you can go ahead and get something you want. So this is what I have. The reason I'm showing you guys this is the way children behave with collision objects is very different from how the parent strands behave with collision objects. So let's play this. Let's move to a frame where they start to collide, so something like this place. So you can see everything is colliding nicely, but let's get inside and see. Now you can see things are passing through. So the reason why things are passing through is because the simulation doesn't really calculate the children positions or movements when baking. So the children is basically copying the data of the parent particles. So that's the reason why you can see the hair going through. And the way to avoid this kind of problem is to make sure you have the children particles very close to the parents. So example is like under children I used children, then under clamping. So this is one option you can use to fix that. So let's go back here. So by using the clamping, you can see you can get it more closer to the parent particles. So when we move to a colliding frame, let's see. So you can see we are getting a less penetration here. So with the clamping option, you can get rid of these errors. I don't know whether I should call it errors, but this option can help you get it done or fix it. Alright, so and using the curve, using the clamp curve also help you get a good result. You get the controls with the curve clamp is very interesting. You can just clamp it like this and you will get a very nice result here. Very simple and very interesting. So any way you prefer to do it, it will work for you. Alright, so this is what we have now, and that's a way I think it will help you get a very nice results when you go for children particles. So alright, so what I'm really hoping to see, or the option I'm really hoping to get in Blender is or to get in the particle settings for the hair is an option to enable the children to be calculated in the baking process, so that the children will not copy the behavior of the parents but will behave on its own, will actually collide on its own. So if anyone watching this know any person to get this done, you can go ahead and pitch that option to that person to see whether it's possible to get that option, because it's going to really help us get a very nice and interesting results with the colliding or with the simulation. Alright, so this is a way I think it will help us get a very nice results with children enabled. Cool, very cool. So the next thing we are going to do is talk about this option, which is the stiffness. So it's very tricky, but it's very useful, and that's my favorite option here. It's very useful. So I'm going to open another file, which I think I've already opened it, which is this one. Alright, so I call her Alita because Alita was the reference I used to create this character. Alright, so this is a character I've made, and this is what we have here. So let me show you the settings I went for this character. Number I went for 1000. Segments I went for 5. And the reason I went for 5 is because the hair is not that long. It's very short. It's a little short, so there's no need to go for a higher segment value. Alright, so dynamics quality steps I went for 5 because there wouldn't be any fast moving colliding objects. Everything will be a little slow, so there's no need to go for a higher value. Alright, the next thing was stiffness. I went for 23, and random I went for 0.1, dampen default air 0.5, internal friction 0.5, and the rest are default. Alright, so Like I said, the interesting settings, or the setting I really like best, is the stiffness. So first, let's see whether everything is colliding well with the hair. So let me try and move this a little. So let's see whether this part of the hair is going to collide with the neck. Alright, cool. So you can see it's bending at the side of the neck. So the place the hair is touching is actually bending. So if you take, so it's actually straight, but when it touches the neck, it starts to bend, and it's very good. So now we are getting more realistic results with hair dynamics in Blender 2.8, and I'm very happy to get these kind of results here. So I'm really expecting to do more hair simulations in the future, and hopefully I'm going to get a very nice results. Alright, so this is very simple. Of course, I use children, display amount of 4, render amount of 4, and the kink I went for nothing, and this is what I'm getting. Very simple. So this is actually the parent particles, so I just went here and combed it. Alright, I don't think it's going to show because of the bake I've done. Yeah, it's not showing, so it's because I've already baked it, so it won't show. Or maybe it might be this. No, so it's because I've already baked it, so it won't show. So actually this is the parent particle, and this is what I combed, and the children is actually following these parent particles. The use of the stiffness is to maintain what you have combed. Alright, so normally if you have the stiffness set to 0, everything is going to change. It's going to change to how it falls. But by using a higher value, you end up maintaining the shape you made on the hair. So one interesting thing I notice about the stiffness is, whenever you increase the value of the stiffness and you bake, the hair actually adjusts to a certain position based on the value you have here. So let me show you what I really mean. Alright, so you can see this, nothing is happening here, but and you can see the simulation starts from here. So this is actually the default shape of the hair, and the value for the stiffness is 23, but study something, notice something. You see, so the hair will automatically move to a different shape based on the value here. So if you have a higher value, it's going to stay almost the same as what you have previously, like this one. So to me, I thought 23 was okay, and that's what I used. So I was okay with the results it was giving me, because it was almost the same as what I had previously. So that's the stiffness, and it's really helpful. So if something even collides with the hair, the hair is actually going to come back to this original position. So that's another one good use of the stiffness. So even if something is colliding with the hair, maybe a cube will hit the hair over here and then the cube will just move here. Of course the hair is going to collide with the cube, but as time goes on, the hair is going to come back to the original position. So getting a higher value will make it return to the original position faster. So the higher the value, the faster it returns to the original position. In summary, if you want your hair to stay the same, you want it, increase the stiffness, and when it's colliding with different objects, if you want it to return to its position at a very fast rate, increase the value here and you will get it. Very simple. So you can go ahead and play with the stiffness to get a very nice, interesting result. All right. So I did a quick viewport render. Um, all right. So this is the video, and this is the results of what I had. You can see it's looking different, and that is I went for curl preset under kink option, under the kink. So I'm using the curl to get this kind of look for the hair. So it's very simple. So this was a very quick test, and I did like the results. A very simple settings, and I did like the results I was able to pull out. So spending my time on it, and learning and having the understanding of the settings is really going to help me get a very nice result. So you can do the same thing, learn it, understand each settings, and hopefully you are going to get a nice results. Alright, so this is the end of the tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I hope this is going to change your simulations for your hair. And thanks for watching. Hopefully we are going to meet again. Remember to subscribe, and do check my previous videos. There are some tutorials I know you are going to like, so go ahead and check my previous videos, and hopefully we are going to meet again. All right.